Tyler and I got to see Joker 2. So I thought we could chit chatted about it a little bit. No spoilers. You don't have to worry about any particular item being spoiled. And it's not even going to be a long conversation. We're not trying to alienate anybody that hasn't seen it. But we thought, if you're curious what we think about it, we're not doing a full scale review of it. So we could just use this space to talk a little bit about the movie. Last Young Renegade says, my colleagues meet women on LinkedIn, believe it or not. Oh, what?
That
I
sounds
thought that was a
vile.
job platform.
Uh, Thought so too.
I'm looking for my next step in my career life. I'm just gonna put fire emojis under all that now.
A child.
Who knew? Wow.
Apparently, I've seen articles that are like, it's crazy on LinkedIn these days. I don't want to be
It's
part
the
of it.
worst fucking website I've ever been
Stay
on.
away. Stay away.
I got on Twitter again before I got on LinkedIn.
Hendrik Perry says, would you call Joker 2 a musical? I like that. If you guys have questions about the movie, if you want to, sort of pick our brains to see if it's for you or whatever, feel free to ask. Tyler, what would you say to that?
Yes, but in the sense that the musical cues are when people can't really fully express their emotions. It kind of switches to a musical number. It's more musical, magical realism, if anything. But yes, it's kind of a jukebox musical, really.
La
Most
La
of the
Land.
songs. Yeah. La La Land's a much better film.
Sure.
But yes, it is a musical. Yeah.
I agree. And for me, I think that was the most frustrating part because I've seen a lot of people really, really ragging on this movie, like saying it's garbage, everything like that. I don't feel that way. I don't think it was garbage. I was frustrated by the musical elements because I thought that they were overdone. And it felt a lot like, hey, you guys liked when Joker danced in the first one? Let's batter your brains in with singing and dancing, even though you probably don't want this. But hey, it's the Joker. Love that Joker. And I was frustrated by that because there's a very interesting movie baked into all of that. There's something being said for sure. And if you can pull out those things out of the movie, which I don't feel like are that explicit, then maybe you'll find something there for you. But even to get to that, you have to go through the musicality, which is annoying and not very good. You have to go through sequences that are head scratching a lot of times. And a movie that definitely has a point, but I don't think it does. I don't think it necessarily understands how to get that point across to you.
I see the reason it's a musical, and it seems to be very meta in the sense that the main theme of the movie is trying to adhere to people's expectations of you and it really not really being you, or you having to come to terms with, maybe you're not that person. Whereas the movie has these expectations on it because of the critical success of Joker, that it being a musical then becomes a movie that people are not expecting or wanting in a way. Which I think the description of that is much more interesting than the actual execution of it. Because at the end of the day, I think this is just a boring movie, which is probably one of the worst things I could say about a movie. It just doesn't do much. It doesn't succeed at being a court procedural movie. It doesn't succeed at being a comic book movie. It doesn't succeed at being a crime or a musical movie. It tries to be so many things at once and fails to be any of them, which kind of sounds like the actual story of the movie too.
And it also like it feels like it takes everything that you liked about the first one and like takes it like kind of walks it back in a lot of ways, which I thought was really interesting but also odd. And it's hard to talk about that without getting into spoilers, but the first movie here's an easy one. The first movie presents things to you that it doesn't let on aren't real until you learn that they're not. And that questioning that you have to do, then sort of you have to look back at the whole movie and go, wait a second, is he delusional the whole time? Is the moment where he kind of ascends at the end of the film where there's all that fire and everything, was that fake? Did that really happen? You know, when you see him locked up again and he's sort of reflecting, and your mind is supposed to go, was all that a fever dream? Did those things happen? This movie answers that question and then plays with that theme, but it doesn't even play with the theme. It just says that theme, that question is out the window. Now there is a clear delineation of what is real and what is not, and it makes the unreal feel unnecessary.
And Tom Phillips was said explicitly, like he added those scenes in this movie to solidify the first movie. And I think it was Matt Singer on a Screen Crush video that I watched talked about this movie feeling like an almost a prosecution of the first movie by the creatives, in the way that like they saw they saw people enjoying Joker and liking the character, and then almost making a movie to be like, you shouldn't have done that. And I think Philosopher King says the film reminds me of Matrix Resurrections. Both feel like the filmmakers were forced to make them, so they punished the studio with a deliberate bomb. I don't think this was a deliberate bomb. I think there was a deliberate move to maybe show the first movie in a negative light, just in context of the second movie, but doesn't do it in an interesting way.
It's deconstructing itself.
Yeah.
And like I was interested in that. That to me was compelling. And it's like the Joker should be viewed through this sort of critical lens. The problem is that it's not the Joker. Like it's not. It's this world's twisted version of a character that exists outside of this place. And so because of that, it's an interesting reflection upon itself, but not upon the character, because that character is not in these movies.
Joker 1 is a Joker movie. Joker 2 is an Arthur Fleck movie. If that makes any sense.
I don't even think Joker 1 is a Joker movie. It's that specific universe's version of the Joker that doesn't feel like the comic book version at all.
Oh yeah, throw out the comic book version of any of these characters. You notice how we haven't talked about Harley at all. Kind of inconsequential and not really a representation of who she is in the comics in this movie. I think they did Lady Gaga bad in this.
And I thought Lady Gaga did her thing. Like in terms of her acting, I was never bothered by what she did. Every time she was on screen, I was excited. I just kept waiting for a big moment for her that doesn't quite come.
There's no real crescendo. It kind of is, and there's no buildup. It's kind of just baseline throughout. There's a big, the end gets a little crazy, but I wouldn't even call it a crescendo really. Kind of just is a mess. Like even in the trailers, a lot of I don't think this is a spoiler because I'm not going to be specific about things. But a lot of those cool shots of Gaga in the trailers, not in the movie.
Yeah, what was up with that?
The cool shots too. Like she is.
They had to get you to go see it.
I guess it almost seems like this thing was like chopped up in a really, really weird way. This movie did not screen to test audiences, and it almost feels like it's like video games now. It's almost like the purchasers of the tickets is the test audience, and maybe we'll get something different for like a director's cut for a home release or something. But it did feel edited strangely too.
Well, when you watch the movie, it's pretty clear why they wouldn't have wanted to screen it to test audiences.
Sure.
And that's because, without getting into any spoilers, the movie is very much meant to be a condemnation of the very same people who they would be screening it to. The movie is clearly a commentary on the spectacle nature of our current world. The first movie is built around a guy who's potentially dealing with mental illness, a very personal story. And then the second movie takes that same guy and makes a spectacle out of him by putting him on trial and letting it become a dog and pony show. That is very much the audience in the court is us.
Yeah, it's almost as if Todd Phillips was like, hey, maybe I emboldened a whole bunch of incels with that first Joker movie. I'm gonna poke fun with them now. And again, I think what Sean and I are saying sounds interesting. Like as I'm hearing us talk about this, I feel like our discussion is more interesting than the movie.
It feels like you're saying it's like that isn't just it's just not framed well and expressed well because you're right that when you guys as you guys are saying that I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound that bad, but under the guise of musical might be a bit obtuse and obstructive.
I think you could do the musical part well too. I think it could work.
Mm.
And I mean, like Joaquin Phoenix has sang before. Was it Walk the Line? He did his own singing.
Yeah.
And he's not a bad, performer. Gaga actually said she had to unlearn how to sing for this movie, which you can tell a lot of her performance is not. It's not bad romance VMAs. It's a much more realistic performance of someone singing. So I think it could work, but none of it lands.
It's a shame.
Uncanny Suit says the nicest thing I could say about this movie is Hangover 2 is still the worst sequel Todd Phillips has made.
That's fair.
One thing I can certainly say without question in my mind is that Joker 1 was made to stand alone.
Sure.
This movie doesn't feel like there were remnant ideas or a clear path to a sequel that Phillips had that became this. It feels like he didn't have intentions of doing anything else. The movie blew up crazy, and it's like, well, how can I turn down the potential to make a sequel to a billion-dollar movie? Now, what is my idea? And they reflected upon the response to the movie and everything like that, and this is what they put out. And I don't think it was bad. I didn't come on here intending to trash it, but I certainly wouldn't say you gotta see it. Like, oh, you have to see it.
I would say, like, on the whole, like I gave it my letterbox subtle plug. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, but I liked it. Does that make sense? Like I liked I was interested in the experience of it. I enjoyed thinking about the movie maybe more than I enjoyed watching the movie. And I don't think it's a great movie. I don't know if I would recommend it though. I've had a lot of people in my DMs being like, "Oh, should I see this movie?" I'm kind of wary about it now. I had tickets tonight, but now I'm not sure I want to go. And honestly, I don't think I can recommend the movie.
It does things that felt like they were deliberately not doing what we would want them to do.
Yep, which is like exactly how Arthur feels in the movie too. Like, so I see the point of what they're doing.
It's just hard to appreciate that. Like, it's hard to appreciate that when not doing what we want you to do, it makes something boring. Like, is it an artistic statement to force me to watch paint dry? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the artistic merit of that?
Is your review on this is that Joker 2 is high art?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The thinking about it is more interesting than the actual movie.
Yeah.
I also saw Megalopolis this week too, which so movies has been and creators and
bad week for
movies.
Tyler, huh?
I saw The Substance halfway through the week too, so The Substance might be one of my favorite movies this year. So it's been a good week because of The Substance, but it's been really interesting to see how like the idea of film and the creatives behind it can influence the film itself. Yeah, weird one. It's a weird one, Joker 2.
Famous Thanos says late to the stream, but didn't Phillips say when the first one came out that this was never the Joker? Could be misremembering though. I mean, that was a while ago. I don't remember exactly what the verbiage was. And I don't want to talk about that too much because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's very easy for me to believe that that is true based on the trajectory of this movie.
If that is a question you're coming up with, Famous Thanos, which cool to see you in the live chat. I don't think I've seen you in a live chat, but I've seen you in the comments before because that fucking Joker profile picture. um, I think if that's a question you have, maybe check this movie out if that's something that you're interested in. But also maybe check it out in a month when it's on Max too. Like I don't think you need to rush to the theater for this one. I mean,
Well, and
Yeah,
it's
all the stuff you guys are saying about how it doesn't feel like it needed to exist, with the fact that it was a Joker 2 or that he didn't have ideas specifically, that the Joker was supposed to be a standalone thing. Like, as I recall, the big discussion was that, like, around the time of Ant-Man 2 was when he was like, I'm pissed off that there are two Ant-Man movies, but there's no Joker. Like, this is ridiculous. And so the fact that he would want to make something that would sort of feed into that superhero machine, to a certain degree, like, it makes sense that, with that kernel uh being the impetus for the Joker, he would not deliberately torch it, a Joker 2, but deliberately make something that was obtuse and had like uh commentary about audiences, and something that was more difficult. It makes a lot of sense that he would do something like that for a sequel.
In a lot of ways, when the movie ended, the audience that I was with seemed confused. It was an awkward finish. There wasn't clapping necessarily. It was more like muttering. And it kind of felt like Todd Phillips took the mic, dropped it at the end, and then flicked us off.
yeah. I remember when the movie ended and the credits rolled. I heard a guy behind me go, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah. And I wasn't mad at it. Like, I've seen people taking
Yeah.
that real personally. I wasn't mad at it, but it definitely don't seem like Todd Phillips likes or appreciates anything that has to do with DC.
The Joker is just another crime movie. It's a diet Scorsese movie to him. But like I said, Sean, like I can still appreciate the I can appreciate this movie, but I don't have to enjoy it. Does that? It's a weird one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you for sure. I'm not fully sure I'm like my where I come down either. But I think I would watch it again.
I would say, out of all the comic book movies I've seen in a long time, this one is. I've been thinking about it since I saw it. It was not a go in there, see the movie, enjoy it, go out, probably never think about it again. Like I'm still thinking about it. So take that for what you will.
Is it a comic book movie?
In the most rudimentary sense, maybe.
In that the two characters are from comic books?
That's
Sort
sort
of.
of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. This movie could have been called. It could have been called Uptown. It could have been called anything. It doesn't matter who the characters are.
Clown
Joker,
Boy.
Charlie, Harley
Sure.
Quinn, Amy. It doesn't matter. There is no representation of their comic book counterparts in this film.
Harley Quinn, do you mean Lee?
Lee, right? Yeah, awful. Awful. Let's hit a few comments before we get out of here. JetX says, in my theater, everyone rushed out from the theater. I don't think anyone in there enjoyed their time. It would be hard to imagine how they could have. My theater was gagaed up. There were so many people there they came for her, clearly.
I wore my Gaga shirt to my screening.
To the point where
Nice.
when they showed the trailer for Wicked, the theater erupted. And it's like, that's how I know the crowd that I am in. And those same people were dead silent throughout the entire movie. And when it ended, they just got up and walked away.
What was that crowd like during the musical parts?
That's a good question.
Silent.
Huh.
But did people enjoy those segments?
What do you expect a crowd to
Could
be
you
during
tell?
during
Yeah.
a musical part though? You want them singing along?
Well, I mean, like, you're there. Okay, right. You're there in your Gaga shirt. and you're gagaed up for your pop star that's going to be in this big movie, right? Like, I don't know,
It's like their Eras tour.
maybe, you know?
The only part that I can't even talk about the part, but there was a part that people popped for, but it was more because it was funny, but not. I don't think it was intended to be funny. We just we were in our own world at that particular moment, making our own jokes and stuff.
Yeah, and I look back at this movie and I can't really pinpoint any individual parts that jump out to me.
Tyler, remember the part where Joker and Harley are alone and they do something happens?
Sure. Yeah.
That was the part that my theater was like
Oh, okay.
having a lot of fun with.
They do something that Marco would have left the show for. Yeah.
Luna asked if the movie feels like it cost 200 million. Hell no.
No. And apparently it's making Morbius numbers right now.
20 million went to Joaquin.
Damn. Yeah, the actors alone, right? For sure. That's where the budget got to go.
And 200 million is not the real number for the budget. I always double them. The budget is probably a lot higher than what is being reported. And it's unfortunate because there's no way this movie's going to make what it needs to make. It ain't making a Billy. I'll tell you that. That's not happening.
Flo Dameron says the Joker 2 was the jokes we made along the way.
The two jokes we made along the way.
Yeah, there
There
weren't a
two
lot
jokes
of
in this movie.
Hendrik Perry says there is a movie that is 10 hours of paint drying. It was made in protest of the British Board of Film Classification because their raters had to watch all 10 hours. So there is art in watching paint dry. Okay, I believe it.
The art is the intent.
Right. Right.
It's very
Alex Clark Simple says, I've seen people online talk a lot about how they don't like the musical bits, but I'm not sure if I can trust reviews from people looking specifically for superhero / comic book type movies on a musical. Dude, look, that is very fair. But I'll tell you this. I love Grease. All right. Grease, the movie, is probably floating somewhere in my top 50 all-time movie. All right. It's an awesome film. I'm not inherently opposed to musicality in movies. I just feel like it, and there is a point to it, as Tyler was illuminating earlier. There is a point to the music, but that doesn't make it feel. That doesn't mean it doesn't feel out of place. At least to me, it took away from what I was compelled by. Like the first movie, I don't know if you guys have listened to the soundtrack. That is one of the best soundtracks for a movie that I've heard in a long time. I love Hildur. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She makes great music, and they turned her shit way back in this film.
Yeah.
The soundtrack for this movie that she put out is awesome, but you barely hear it.
There's one scene in this movie that is a recreation of one of the big scenes in Joker 1 that gives us a little more context to it. It like continues the scene further than what we've seen. And Alex Clark, as somebody who is a musical fan, like I'm a big Busby Berkeley guy. I don't think this succeeds as one either. I think there's some really cool sets here that will probably look great in a screenshot or like a still from the movie, but don't really lend itself to what this movie is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even a superhero fan knows what, knows what they like, knows what feels good, in a film. And if you liked it or not.
It looked good. Like there was a point, like I said, but I don't know. Let's see. Boss Rondier, hey, what's up? The Living Blade himself. Maybe I missed it, but did you guys like the first Joker movie? I loved it.
I really enjoy it.
What?
Going.
What? You guys are awful people. You like the first Joker movie?
Incel fucks. How dare you?
Red flag. Where's the red flag?
I watched
two
illegally.
red flags for the both of us, Tyler.
I watched it illegally from a Pirate Bay link I found on 4chan.
That's better.
Yeah.
I paid to go, and I got yelled at for liking it by you guys know who I'm talking about. That was weird.
Well,
Right.
Hey, let me be clear. It wasn't me or Marco.
I was hesitant about its need to exist before it came out, but once I saw the movie, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
On musicals, you like Grease too?
Nah, man.
And,
No.
and
I've
Sean,
seen it multiple times. I didn't like it.
speaking of Grease,
That's all right. That's all right.
Grease Lightning makes all the girls what exactly?
Scream.
Uh,
I asked my high school musical teacher.
uh,
Oh boy. Whoa, DV, I almost don't even know how to read what you said, man, but I'm gonna try. Are you implying that this Joker is like Smallville Jimmy Olsen? Well, Smallville Jimmy Olsen gets killed, and at the funeral, it turns out Jimmy is his middle name, and he has a younger Jimmy brother who will inherit the mantle of Jimmy Olsen. Is there a younger Joker ready to fall in chemicals? Go watch the movie. That was a long road. I understood
Yeah.
it ultimately, but I would say to answer your question, go watch the movie. Um, any other questions? Any other
Just off,
questions?
just off the back of that, now I'm imagining like a music theater major who falls into a vat of chemicals.
I'm imagining Stars, the musical number from Les Mis, as he falls into a vat of chemicals instead.
I haven't seen Les Mis. All right. That's where we're going to leave it.